What's going on, everybody, and welcome to the Gametime Podcast. We are back this Sunday with another slate of episodes. I want to give a big thank you to Alex Golden last week, not only for correcting me on his name. I did not mean to call him Alex Gordon. Alex Golden. I appreciate him for coming on last week. Part 2 is now up on the channel if you guys want to check that out. Thank you guys for so much support on the Gametime Podcast thus far. 95 subscribers, 5 away from 100. Pretty big milestone for the Gametime Podcast, no question. And, as we're ramping up here, Daryl, I've got my co-host Daryl here today. No Ramon, he's got a birthday to celebrate. So Ramon, you go have a blast with that birthday. But Daryl, I want to, before we get into what we wanted to talk about, before our guest gets in today, I wanted to say everything's lining up for next week because this episode that we had last week was episode 14. So episode 15 is going to be a pretty big episode. It's definitely a milestone episode to say the least. And episode 10 was the Coach Hester part of our show where we had the 3-part segment with Hester. So we've been bringing in some decent guests on the bigger episodes. We'll have to see what we can get for episode 20. But episode 15 next week, I'll announce it on my Twitter. My Twitter is in the description along with Daryl's, so make sure you guys go check that out. But Daryl, how are you doing, man? How are we feeling? We're kind of in the dog days of summer, as you like to put it. I gotta ask, what have you guys been talking about on the pod? And I'm like, well, we could talk about anything. If you want us to be honest with ourselves, NBA season's pretty much done, but we're going to talk about it a little bit more because, we're the basketball heads of the group. Ramon is going to definitely get us into football mode here in a couple weeks. So,
no, I think you hit the nail on the head, man. It's still basketball season because of free agency. You got summer league going on right now. You got a lot of conversation going on about who went where and who didn't go where and who's staying. And I think just like you and I were talking about yesterday. The big conversation from Pacer Nation is Miles Turner signing with the Milwaukee Bucks on 3 years with a player option for the 4th year at about $107 million. I've been pretty vocal about my feelings about Miles and him as a Pacer and wanting him to finish his career as a Pacer. I got over it after a couple of days that he wasn't going to be re-signing back with the Pacers. There's multiple reports about what was offered, what wasn't offered. I've heard 3 at 66. I think I've heard 3 at 75. We've even heard 3 at 60, right? So I think I talked about last time about if the Pacers offered him, their first offer was the 3 at 60 or the 3 at 66. Those were slaps in the face. If they offer him 3 at 75, I feel like that was, a low ball offer. Yeah. You got to do the best you can for yourself. And in this case, Miles, made the decision that, he was going to go ahead and move on. So I got to respect that, from that perspective as a Pacer fan, as a Miles fan. But yeah, it's tough seeing him go because he grew up here, right? As a pup out of Texas University. University of Texas, and he spends 10 years here, giving his best, representing the city, doing a lot within the community to better the Indianapolis area community, and so I give Miles his props. He's gone. He's no longer a Pacer. I wish him the best. I hope he has a career year this year. I just hope when his career year happens, it's not against the Pacers. So I hope he does well, but every time they play the Pacers, I expect a loss. So that's my hope for Miles and the free agency talk that we've talked about.
I got you. Yeah, for the Miles thing, me and my dad, we had such a long my stepdad, we had such a long conversation about it when it first happened. It's like, I've exhausted all energy on the topic now. It is what it is. He's gone. I really don't have anything more to say about it. So we'll see how he does. To be honest, I don't really care. I think Isaiah Jackson will do good. I think, who else did they get? Jay Huff. I think
James Wiseman and Huff are the three centers there.
I think I think the Pacers will be fine. I don't think the Bucks. Like we've talked about, I think the Bucks will maybe scratch the play-in in the playoffs.
Yeah. Well, they did just sign kid from North Carolina that went to Memphis. Memphis bought him out, the guard. I can't remember
Cole
his name
Anthony.
off the top of my head. Cole Anthony, yeah, Cole Anthony.
Which I thought was a good
Greg's
pickup
son.
for the Bucks.
Greg's son, yeah. So we were talking. Remember, yesterday we were talking about them not having a point guard, right?
Yeah.
We just spoke about that, and now all of a sudden, I'm not saying he's an all-star starter, but he's a viable option for them, because that was a hole that they had for sure.
Yeah, and but we're gonna move on to our next topic, and it's a topic that I brought up to you guys in the group chat a couple days ago because I'm like, I don't know what everyone on NBA Twitter is thinking. So obviously, as the host of the pod, I have to bring us diverse discussions. You hate when you don't hate, but you're definitely someone that's like, man, it's just the internet, da 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 da. But that's the point, with this pod, we can bring up those topics, and and it gives us something to give dialogue about, especially in this point in the summer where we're right on the cusp of NFL and college football, but we're not there quite yet, and we still have to get through preseason in August. But there's been a lot of discourse on Twitter about Paolo Banchero or Jalen Williams, as in who's the better player, who would you rather have to start a franchise? And then they got into more conversation. You've got Thunder fans saying, well, I would take Chet Holmgren over Paolo Banchero. And then you've got other people coming in, and they've been, there's a podcast that I like to watch. It's called Pick a Side Podcast. And they did Would You Rather, and it was like Paolo Banchero or Kyrie Irving. And that one had a little bit of like, I don't know, because Paolo's younger, Kyrie still really, really good. So there's been a lot of discourse on where does Paolo Banchero rank among the current NBA players right here, right now. I saw somebody show some stats. It was a side-by-side, and they were like, I would take Jalen Johnson in Atlanta over Paolo Banchero right now. And to all those people, all I have to say is Paolo Banchero is going to be a top 5 player in the NBA in a couple years, and we're having this discourse about Jalen Williams. I think Jalen Williams is great, but Jalen Williams is Jaylen Brown at best. He's not going to be on the level of Paolo Banchero. He's a great player, but he's not going to be a number one option. Paolo Banchero is a number one option. Now, if somebody told me, like Daryl, if you told me right now, I think Cade Cunningham is a better player than Paolo Banchero, I would say I would agree with you, but I would say it's close. I would say Paolo may be a bit behind Cade Cunningham, but I think the discourse around Paolo and the players that he is being put underneath of, I think it's a disgrace because I think his ceiling is higher than a lot of these players' ceilings ever got to or ever it will get to, especially Jalen Williams and especially Chet Holmgren. I think there's been a lot of disrespect's being thrown towards Paolo's way, and that's fair. He hasn't done much in the playoffs. He's been out in the first round 2 years in a row. I get it. But I think with the ceiling that he has and with the way this Magic team is being pointed towards, I think we're going to see Paolo Banchero take that leap, and I think they will make some noise this season, whether that's just getting to the second round, which is an achievement, because if you're getting to the next round year over year, I think that's some sort of success. But I think Paolo Banchero is going to be one of the best players in the league, and I think top 5 is not the craziest thing to say, because I think Cade could be top 5, and he could probably at one point be a top 3 point guard in the league here soon.
No, I agree with you. I know that we have a lot of discord between ourselves, especially yesterday, talking about some things. But to that point, one of the things when we're talking about this, we're prisoners of the moment. We've talked about that a lot. And if you look at, Banchero and Williams side by side as players, right? Williams is a champion this year. Great, wonderful. But we're talking about player wise. There's no way I would pick Williams over Banchero. That dude has grown as a player. For me, his challenge is staying healthy this year, right? If he plays 70 plus games, not only will he be an all-star, but I project he'd be an all-NBA player this year coming up. If he plays 70 games, which means he's going to be healthy most of the year. You've got those sit-out games because every player does it now. He's going to be an all-star. And I would not be surprised if he winds up being an all-NBA player.
Would you have?
That's how much confidence I have in Banchero as a player. Now, to your point about He, along with Chet Holmgren, bigger guys coming in. Yeah, I would take Vancaro all day and twice on Sunday over the young man in Oklahoma City, Chet Holmgren. I absolutely would. So I would agree with that.
Yeah. Would you take Paulo or Kyrie right now?
Is it 1 year? Or are we talking about is it if it's this coming year, Paulo or Kyrie? Because obviously Kyrie's hurt. If you give me 1 year for them both being healthy, from a championship perspective, I would probably take Kyrie.
Okay.
Now you give me the next 5 years. You say you got a 5-year window. Mm-hmm. I'm taking Vancaro.
Yeah,
because I just think that much about him as a player and as a dominating player. His bag has increased from his rookie season. He's got the post game, and now also he's stretched it out to 20-footers, right?
Yeah.
So I believe that the young man has of these players we've named, not named Kyrie, his ceiling is higher than any of those other guys.
Even Cade?
Including Cade. Now, mind you, here's the thing.
Ooh, okay.
Cade is tough, man.
Well, I know I know you're high on Detroit, and we've talked about that.
Yeah,
we talked about
tough.
It with Alex
but
Golden.
Vancaro, for me, Vancaro seems like a combination of a James Worthy / I'm trying to think of somebody else who's a bigger post type of guy. James Worthy-esque. That's what he reminds me a little bit of. But he's bigger. He's bigger. He's broader, right? And he can put the ball on the deck a little better than James as well. So that's high praise because everybody knows how much I love James Worthy as well. Yeah. But Vancaro, man, I think he's going to be a difference-making type of player. He's got to make sure he has the right point guard for him to help him. He needs that help, whereas Cade is going to be the driver, right? Cade is going to be the driver of that bus in Detroit, and Vancaro is going to need someone to help him, but he won't need a whole lot of help because he can do a lot by himself.
No, I think Paulo's tremendous. I mean, I've not hid that on the pod since we've started the pod. I've supported Paulo for the longest. I think his ceiling is top 5 in the NBA at some point. And I think he's not far from that. It's hard to put him it's hard to put him somewhere like right now, right? Because I think, there's guys that are clearly above him. I saw a little discourse. It's like, is he better than Ant? And I'm like, no, I'll give Ant's better than him right now. I'll give people that. I think he's better than Trae Young. I think he's better than Ja Morant. I mean, I think if you look at it, I mean, Jaylen Brown may be the better player, but I don't think it's that far off to say Paulo is better than Jaylen Brown. I don't think it's that far off to say that either.
Well, Jaylen Brown on the defensive end is a lockdown type of guy, right? In today's NBA, if anybody ever gets locked down, right? So Vancaro's got to improve on the defensive end, right? Block a few more shots, make it really difficult in the post for post players, against Orlando. But again, to that point, man, you're splitting hairs, right? You're talking Jaylen Brown's a hell of a player. He's an established player. He's small. He's smaller as well. But I just don't see how one could say Vancaro is. I've seen people saying he overrated. Overrated in what? The guy just watch him play, man. Just watch him play, and you'll see what we're talking about. And again, double down. 70 games next year. Not only is he an all-star, I wouldn't be surprised if he's all NBA, meaning top 15 in the league.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I like look, I know Thunder fans have won a chip, so they're on a high ride right now. But I saw somebody that said if you take Paulo and put him on OKC and he replaces Chet, Paulo would still be the third option. I'm like, you're out of your mind.
That's emotion. Of your
I understand, but it's just like I get it. Like you just want to chip everything else, but to be that incompetent to say that, it's like I get you're on a high, but Jesus, like
because what happens, they weigh out that championship. Well, he won a championship. That's wonderful and that's great. God bless him. But with that said, we're talking about an individual player. We're not talking about, hey, how many rings does this guy have, right?
Scottie Pippen won 6, and Scottie Pippen isn't in any conversations.
well, Robert Ory's won 7. Okay.
I was trying to think of somebody that won 7, but there we go.
So my point being is, it's like we get in these conversations, and usually what we do, we venture over to the who has the most rings. It's sort of like this one player who's currently in the league and been playing for over 20 years now says, we're in this ring culture. Well, it started with that person, right? And that's where we are. Anytime I hear us talk about who's the best, somehow, some way, someone's going to bring up, well, he has no championship. Well, guess what? Everybody on Twitter, those people yapping, they don't have NBA championships either. So when you see that, oh, they don't have a chip. Okay, fine, doesn't have a chip. That doesn't mean he's not a great player. Would you say that Charles Barkley was not a great all-time player? Absolutely, yes. Karl Malone, absolutely, yes. John Stockton has a record in the NBA that'll never be broken. Yeah, absolutely. It'll never be broken. And yet, in those three guys, no championships. But all three are all-time greats. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, that's fair.
Rings are great. I would put a category: great players, period, and then great players with rings. Because again, you'll never win the argument about the MJ versus Bron. No one's going to ever win it. You'll never win the argument Russell versus Chamberlain, right? You have supporters on both sides, and they don't bend.
Yeah.
So it's okay, But it's good conversation.
Like again, I have a coworker.
What people like.
I have a coworker. He thinks Larry Bird's top 5 like greatest all time. And
that's fair. And again, I don't think that's ridiculously ludicrous, but it's homerism probably as well too. Right.
I mean, he does wear a lot of Patriots gear, so the two teams kind of if you're a Patriots fan, you're usually
that comes into play too, right? Who you like, right? Like for me, I don't like Trae Young. I don't think he's a winning player. I think he doesn't respect the game, and so he's really low on my list. He's a great shooter. I give him that.
Would you have Trae Young or John Morant?
John Morant.
Oh wow! See, I'm taking Trae Young.
That's fair. I mean, it's splitting hairs, right? But you said, well, look at Morant. He's had all this trouble talking about basketball, right? You get back to that. And again, for me, I take John Morant over Trae Young right now.
Interesting.
You know why? You know why? While John Morant is not a strong defender, he fights. He's a fighter.
Yeah.
And maybe he did get his coach fired this past season, and in the same vein as Trae Young, right? Coach killers. But I would take Morant right now over Trae Young.
Interesting. See, I thought you were going to say Trae Young, but I guess not. I mean, I thought you would say Trae Young.
Again, there may be some bias in me because, again, like I said, I'm not a fan of Trae Young.
You haven't talked the best about John Morant either on the pod.
Right, exactly. So
I was just curious.
Because of off the court things, right? Being disrespectful, right? On the court, I see a level of joy with John Morant that I don't see with Trae Young. I know for a fact that Trae Young's got 2 coaches fired. Yeah. I know that for a fact. And again, just for me, not wanting to do the right thing, I just don't, again, I think he came in the league wanting to be Steph Curry. And there's only one Steph Curry, man. There's only one Steph Curry. So just you gotta accept that,
As we wait on our guest, which will be for about another 20 minutes or so, it's only right that I bring up the Los Angeles Lakers, our soap opera here on the show. We got to give this a segment, the times of our Lakers, the young and the Lakerless. We gotta give this a name. Because the news is continuing to spiral in LA. Apparently 4 teams have contacted Rich Paul to see if LeBron James wants out. LeBron went to Summer League yesterday to watch Bronny. And the TV broadcast asked if he wanted to come on. He was like, I ain't got nothing to talk about. Apparently, Luka was notified of the sale, but LeBron wasn't. But at first in the ESPN article, they were both notified of the sale, but then it got changed later on. There's a lot going on in Lakerland that if you're a Lakers fan, it's got to have you worried, right? Because it's just like the focus, granted you've got some months till the season, but you're already heading into the new season with turmoil. It's turning into a soap opera.
Let me ask you this, right? So with that said, since we're talking Laker talk, and you can't talk Lakers without LeBron. So we've talked about him, looking at, obviously the end of his career, still has some gas in the tank, but not on both ends, and being able to play the way he played, maybe 5-7 years ago. So if he's looking to leave after this season, they're not a championship contender with or without Luka. He and Luka there, and also, obviously with Aiden, them picking up Aiden. If he wants to go. At this point, you can't talk out both sides of your mouth. So there have been times when he says, "Hey, I'm not the GM, I'm not the coach. I just do what I'm told." Right. So if that's what you're saying, if you're just one of the other ants right here, we got 12 ants here, and you're just one of 12. Why do you care if you weren't told that the team was going to be sold? You're not a part owner. You're leaving after a year. You're not a Laker. You were Cleveland. You came to Laker, as a free agent, right? You've had you brought a title to the city in 2020. Great, but they told Luka's 26. You're 41 or 2 or whatever. Okay. Yeah. So, but again, you can't have it both ways. If wield your power like you did when you brought Anthony Davis to Los Angeles. Maybe they said, you know what, we're not going to give him that power anymore. Maybe they said, you know what, no, we're not placating to him any longer. Maybe that's where the sassiness comes into play at. It could be. I don't know, but that's what it sounds like to me. It sounds like there's a little sassiness going on.
No, yeah, I would agree. Some pettiness, some other. Yeah, I know. I would agree with you on that as well. I just want good hoops. That's literally it. I just and everyone's talking about. I saw some discourse about Luka, right? Oh, he's falling behind with everybody else when it comes to rings. And when you look at the guys that have won rings the last couple of years, they're all on the same time frame. Jokic was about 26. Tatum was 25, I want to say, and Luka's turning 26 this year. So, I mean, he's going to have to wait a while to get a ring. He ain't winning a ring this year. He probably won't win one next year. And we'll see if he resigns. We'll see if he signs the extension. But we will have to see. I'm gonna have to get a graphic made because every time we talk about the Lakers, I'm gonna have to see if I can use the Young and the Restless.
A little tick mark, right?
The Young and the Restless theme song. It'll fade out on us and it'll show the graphic, and we'll call it the Young and the Lakerless. And that'll be our days of our Lakers.
let me ask you this, as a Laker fan. I believe worst case scenario for the Lakers would be this is Bron's last year and Luka decides not to sign after this season.
Yeah, that's the worst case. That's
and that's a realistic case, right?
Yeah.
It's not a foregone conclusion, right? Because if I remember right, Luka's going, and this is his last year. I think he's eligible to be extended October. Is it
next
October?
Month.
I think
August.
it's August. Is it August?
Okay. It is August.
So I'm sure there's going to be a lot of concerned faces in August.
Yeah,
and see what happens, right? And then there's going to be a lot of talk. If he does,
it's says, not. I don't know if it's August 1st or just a day in August. I don't know the exact day he's eligible. But
yeah, we can do the math and find out. But yeah, it's again, they are where they are, and due to a lot of the decisions they made to placate to LeBron James, right? So drafting his son. Hood Schifino never getting a real chance to play as a first round pick, 17th pick out of his University of Indiana, right? These are decisions made. You kind of push those things. Maybe the leadership says, we can't say no to him, but new ownership can.
Yeah,
and that's where you are, right? So we'll see what happens in Lakerland, but they're not going to stop being in the news.
No, I mean not at all. Not at all. I mean, people probably may get mad at me because I have nothing to say about Turner, but I have something to say about this. And it's like, the Turner news he signed, right? He signed to Milwaukee. He's thrown a couple shots, as people have said on Twitter. So it's like at the end of the day, it's like we've talked about it. We probably haven't talked about it enough, but I think all my emotions about the signing are gone because I'm like, at the end of the day, long term, the Bucks aren't going to get any better. And the Pacers will get better once Tyrese is back. They could get back to the same spot if they wanted to. And the Laker news, it's the Lakers. It has LeBron James. There's going to be, and he's 40. He wants to win, or maybe he doesn't want to win. We really don't know what he wants at this point. It feels like.
He wants a title. No, he wants a title bad, right? He talked about that ring chasing thing to take a little bit of that heat off because he doesn't see that title in his immediate future. That's what I believe, right? But again, if he leaves this season, he goes elsewhere. I'm sure his followers will follow, and he'll be the talk of the league until he retires. I mean, you can, listen. I'm not a fan, but you got to just admit it. He's going to be the talk of the league until he retires.
Yeah,
that's just who he is. But I do want to give me 2 minutes on the Turner thing.
Go ahead.
We talked about this yesterday about Turner taking a shot at the Pacers, right? So I'm gonna give you my perspective as a lifelong Pacer fan, right? So Miles Turner came here. I think it was to 2012 draft, right?
2015.
15. I said 12. I'm sorry. 2015 draft. Since 2012. I've been a season ticket holder since 2012. Been to over 200 games in Gamers Live right here behind me, Bankers Live, and Conseco, right? During that time frame.
Mm-hmm.
Miles, 10 years, his whole career, I've seen him play at least 15 home games a season. Okay. I've heard fans where I sit, and this picture exactly where I sit. I've heard fans boo him, chastise him, call him names, soft, a waste of 7 foot for 10 years. I've seen it on the internet. Same thing. Disrespectful. Now, and even worse things, even talking bad about his dad, who used to sit over in section, I think section 12. So with that said, Miles Turner has never once embarrassed himself as a Pacer off the court. He's never once lashed out all the trade rumors for the last 6 or 7 years. He signed his contract. He never held out. He never had a disparaging comment about the management, leadership, or anything else. Okay. The guy played his contract out. Okay. He had one responsibility. His responsibility is to do what's best for Miles Turner. Okay. Okay. I wanted him to stay a Pacer and end his career. He chose not to. I think both sides are going to regret that. I think the Pacers are going to regret not ponying up a bigger offer in the beginning. And I think Miles is going to regret saying, man, I was at home. It was 10 years. It was tough. But I think in a few years, he'll look down the road, maybe even after his career, and he'll say, I could have worked it out, right? But with that said, now you've got, people saying, oh, he took a shot at the Pacers. The man said, again, it was an 18-minute interview, right? Yeah. And he says, I want to stay and be in a competitive situation. There's nothing wrong with that. He was here for 10 years. He knows his team is competitive. He was in that locker room seeing those young, hungry dogs that he talked about, right? Yeah. The same people who were saying, get rid of him, he's a bum, sign him to $10 million, offer him $10 million, offer him $15 million only, are the same people that are offended that he said he wanted to be in a competitive situation. You can't have it both ways either.
Some people just find a reason to hate.
But people want to find a way to be in their feelings. That's what we are. We have to clap back on everything, and we've got to respond to everything. The man said nothing disparaging against the city of Indianapolis or the Indiana Pacers. You can take what you want and spin it and twist it as you want, because what people do. You hear what you want to hear, see what you want to see. But he wasn't disrespectful towards the Pacers. Then he made a post about his time in Indiana, right? How he appreciated it, right? But no one's going to talk about that because they want to be mad and angry about, well, he could have said it a different way, like my guy said yesterday, and that's fine. But we can go back and say, well, I could have done this a little different. We can do that all day long. All I'm just saying is the man gave his best for 10 years. Pillar of the community, did his best. I'm not mad in anything that he said, and I'm not disappointed. The only disappointment part for me is him and the Pacers not working it out for him to stay. So that I wanted to share that. We got to be careful about being butthurt about everything that's being said, because people get in their feelings and sometimes they just can't let go. So that's my rant about the Miles Turner, how I absolutely feel.
All right. I mean, yeah, like I said, I think I've exhausted all conversation about it. Me and my stepdad got into it a little bit.
You got to save that for the show. You can't be sharing with your stepdad. We got giving.
Well, it happened on the day of my birthday, So I
Yep.
got home from celebrating, and then we were sitting there eating dinner. We probably talked for like an hour and a half. Like it was ridiculously long. So I
Yeah.
mean, and my views have changed on it too. Like I was really mad. I'm like, man, this is as bad as Granger. Da 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 da. Like I was way more mad about it then than I am now. It's been like what, two
Yeah.
weeks now. So it's
Yeah.
like,
A little week. Yeah.
so I'm just not. For me, it's like my views have also changed on it. I don't think it's that big of a deal. I think the Pacers will be fine. I wasn't giving Isaiah Jackson enough credit 2 weeks ago. I was saying, he's not going to be the same player as Turner. Da 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 da. He may be better than Turner. He's definitely a better lob threat and stuff like that. I think the only difference is when you look at the centers on the roster, probably other than Jay Huff, what Turner did such a good job was taking those big time centers out of the paint and having to guard him out on the perimeter. I think that's the only big thing that you're missing when it comes to Miles Turner. I mean, other than that, I think you get better post work with Jackson and Huff. Huff is probably just as athletic as Turner. Isaiah Jackson can jump out the gym. So I think the Pacers will be fine once Halliburton comes back. I think next year, we've talked about it, they could definitely make the playoffs. I think worst case scenario, they miss the playoffs or or they get into the play-in and lose or something like that. Well, best case scenario is they best worst case scenario is they probably get into the lottery, right? Get a draft pick, something like that. Worst case scenario is you're one of those teams that is like 13th, because I guess if you're 13th in, or not 13th, however it works, if you're like that team in the middle, you didn't make the playoffs, but you also didn't make the lottery. You don't want to be in that spot either. So I think that's the
I
worst
think they'll
thing.
be okay. I don't
Yeah.
anticipate them being third. I don't think they'll be in that situation. But you never know how it could go. But to end with this, I think the two top teams in the East are New York and Cleveland. Okay,
Yep.
from 3 through 10, I'd be willing to bet it wouldn't be an 8 or 9 game separation from 3 through 10.
Yeah.
So you could be
I would agree.
4, you could be 7, you could be 9. I think it's just going to be that close because a lot of guys are out, and there's a lot of young men that need to prove themselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we'll see what happens. But that's why we watch the games, right, and see what happens.
Atlanta's definitely in the mix. That is for sure. One thing about it, the Atlanta Hawks are in the mix this year.
Yeah,
So is
they're in the
Orlando.
mix.
So
They're in the mix.
he said that under his breath. They're in the mix. Detroit and Orlando, I think, are the other top two teams. But I mean, there is a significant tier. Like if we're going off tiers, tier 1 is Cleveland and New York. Tier 2, I would say, is Detroit and Orlando. And then tier 3, I would say Indy, Boston, everyone else, honestly. I mean, I think there's 4 teams that are
Yeah.
above the rest at this moment in time, and everybody else, it's like I think Milwaukee, if Milwaukee can get into the playoffs and based off the matchups, I think Giannis can get you. I think Giannis can get them to the ECF. Like I fully believe, just if the matchups are right, everything goes right for Milwaukee. I don't think it matters where they're at. I think if you have 34 out on the court, I think they can get to the ECF, because not only is the East a little bit weaker, but I think Giannis can definitely do it. I think he can, drag that team above water.
Don't forget Doc Rivers is still the coach. So
no, that is a good point. That is a good point.
So
but that's
there's a
me
little bit there.
No, that's me giving a lot of credit to Giannis and just kind of forgetting about Doc Rivers. But yeah, Doc Rivers, he definitely be the reason they don't do well in the playoffs or in the regular season either. And they got Darvin Ham as well. So you've just got two incompetents.
What did Darvin Ham do? Oh, I forgot he coached.
Yeah, so
it's talk about we always have this tie-in, right?
I know there's always a tie-in, but hey, look, I anytime I got a chance to throw shade at Darvin Ham, I will, because he made Rui guard Jokic for 48 minutes in the Western Conference Finals. So I will always throw some shade at Darvin Ham. One more thing, it's not about sports. It's about pop culture in general. Go see Superman. I had to say it on the pod. I said I would say it on the pod. Go see Superman. Very good film. I loved seeing it. I got to go see it on Friday. Daryl, I know you said you're gonna try and go check it out.
Yeah.
Once it hits streaming or in the theaters.
Yeah. I can't afford the movie prices, man. And between getting some pop and popcorn, I gotta get a second mortgage out of my home, man. So I'm gonna let it roll through, and I should be able to see it hopefully in the next week or two. So I think I'll be all right.
I probably go to the theaters maybe once a year, you know. So last year I think I went for Deadpool and Wolverine because Hugh Jackman came back as Wolverine. So
I
I
do
went.
like Wolverine.
So
And honestly, I did see Wolverine at the
oh, you
movie theater.
did? Okay,
Yeah,
okay. So yeah, so it's like
I like that. I
so
like that.
I've gone to the theaters, I think, twice this year. This is probably the most I'll go in a year in a while. So like Fantastic Four comes out in 2 weeks. Probably go to the theaters to see that. So I'm looking forward to all the movies we got coming out. I'm a big superhero guy. I mean, you guys see I don't know. They can see the Funkos in the back. They're always in the
Yeah.
back
Well,
there.
yeah.
So I loved it. Superman was great. If you are a Henry Cavill fan and you liked Man of Steel, you may not like this one, but I think a lot of people that are comic book fans, I think they'll like this Superman that we got.
You can't have a movie Superman named the Man of Steel. That was just unethical. Naming it the Man of Steel was a failure from the beginning. It's got to be just Superman.
Or yeah. No, I
You know,
agree.
it just got to be. You know, so that's my 2 cents on the Superman theory there for sure.
No, I'm excited for it. And then just to end things off, we're talking about, well, no, we're not talking about streaming, but Formula One, right? They just had that movie that came out, did really well in the box office. It was produced by Apple, and it looks like Apple TV is going to buy the TV rights to F1 after this year. F1's been on ESPN the last couple years. F1 was looking for about $100 million. And it looks like Apple TV is going to give them 150 million to come to Apple TV. So I'm curious, F1's a different fan base. It's
That's
starting
the European. That's that
but
European fan
it's
base,
gaining
right?
a lot of traction in the US. The movie did really well. Some people say it's probably overtaking NASCAR when it comes to the best American motorsport, and I would agree too. So I am curious to see how much will this affect their viewership. Obviously, when it's on ESPN, it comes on at like different times of the night because they race all around the world. But
Right.
I think the viewership won't change that much. But I think for F1, they were getting 80 million from the ESPN contract. To jump from that to 150 million, it's
Yeah.
definitely good for the sport. It's not what NASCAR is getting. NASCAR is getting about $8 billion from 4 different networks, but I think that's kind of what maybe hurt F1 in their TV deal is NASCAR's got to deal with Fox, Amazon, TNT, and NBC. So it's like the market was kind of flooded at that point.
And also they've got a base, right? They've got a
Yeah.
base. The F1 is gaining a base, but NASCAR is solidified. You're talking about stock car racing, right? So yeah, I could see that being the case. But I tell you, F1 for me, yeah, you look at the car, you think Indy cars, right? But you see these road courses, you see the road courses. You don't see a lot of the ovals, right?
Yeah.
So it's intriguing, and yeah, you want to see these guys race, man, because that takes a lot of skill in these road courses versus obviously ovals are skill wise as well, but the road courses, man, yeah. I couldn't do that, man. That's tough.
I agree, and I think with F1, it's so much like, and you know what? A lot of people think, oh, it's the same as IndyCar. I think the technology over in F1 is so more advanced. There's so much money put into these cars, like they're honestly like mini airplanes, like with how much power and how much goes into those cars. It's absolutely insane. But that's how we're gonna end it off. There was just a couple tidbits I wanted to talk about before we have our guest on. Daryl, is there anything you had that you wanted to bring up that was something, minuscule, maybe not even sports?
Easily. Free Miles Turner. No, just kidding. No, it's been a good summer. We've got guests coming, and I can't wait till the announcement for our guest for next week. I'll just leave it at that.
You got me stuttering my words here. No, I'm excited too. I was happy to get the guest for you as well. This is the biggest guest we've had on the pod other than today's guest. I mean, we've had some pretty good guests the last couple weeks and everything else.
Not gonna stop.
We're gonna keep working on it with high school football in Indiana starting to rev up, and a lot of our fans being from Indiana. We'll definitely try to get some high school football coaches on as well. But we are close to 100 subscribers. We are 5 away from 100.
Keep them coming, everybody. Like and subscribe.
Yeah. I love it. We're doing a great job, and we've got more guests on the way. We've got a guest coming on today, so folks, don't go anywhere. We'll have more content coming right here on the Gametime Podcast.